Welcome to the Tessa Tubbs Podcast. This is a show for people refining what success means and choosing to live in alignment with who they actually are. And that, my friends, is the context for today's conversation. We're exploring something many people experience but don't always have language for. And that is, what does it look like to stay anchored to purpose when the plan changes, when outcomes aren't guaranteed, and when the path forward is not straight? My guest today is Christi Dortch. Christi has spent her life at the intersection of creativity, leadership, and lived experience. First as a performer, then as a director, an administrator, a consultant, and a builder behind the scenes of the performing arts and entertainment world. From years on the road as a triple threat performer, to leading and advising major art institutions, to helping organizations rebuild, reimagine, and endure through seasons of disruption, Christi's work has always been grounded in one central thought line: honoring purpose while building systems that actually sustain it. At the heart of this conversation is a powerful idea: purpose as the compass, passion as the fuel, and endurance as the way forward, especially when certainty is absent and the future hasn't fully revealed itself yet. Christi, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, Christi, you've had a career that spans performance, leadership, and now advisory work across the arts and entertainment space. And I just want to start by inviting you to reflect on a moment or maybe even a season when you had to release the plan and return to purpose. What was happening then, and what became clear for you internally when the plan you were following no longer fit?
I sort of feel like you just described my whole life. So, honestly, it's not something I realized that I did naturally until much later in my life. The concept of working by passion, leading my purpose, is something that has come naturally to me because I have been passionate about being a performer since I was 4 years old and took my first dance class. I knew that's what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to perform. I wanted to take on the role of other people and feel what they felt and express emotion in ways that other people couldn't. It just meant everything to me. And I was lucky enough that got my degree. I've worked whenever I wanted to work in the field, and I chose new work development, which, talk about passion over purpose and having endurance. It's kind of the unsung heroes of the world, but I really enjoyed that concept. And so I think for me, the first time I really had to think about passion and purpose and where they align or don't align is when I decided to come off the road and stop performing. And like I said, I'd wanted to do it since I was 4. At the point that I decided to come off the road, I was 26. And I had been working in my field of choice when I wanted to for 6 solid years. And it came down to the purpose of, I missed my stuff. Like, I wanted to not be moving every month and a half to 2 months. So yeah, I came back and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I come from a family of accountants. So on top of all the other wonderful things that you said about me, I have a financial background as well. I decided to start working with the Performing Arts Center on their finance side. I would go in and do settlements for concert shows and go to all the different venues and meet all the promoters and work through the contracts. And that was just sort of okay, this is a stopgap until I figure out what's next. And I still did some performing, but it wasn't really feeding me. And so I had to make the decision, what am I doing? How can I still be passionate about what I'm doing? Because honestly, I had somewhat lost my passion on the performance side and needed to find my way back there because I never wanted to be bitter about something that I've loved my whole life. And I found that passion again by going for purpose. As I worked for the Performing Arts Center and was doing things for them that were just for me, sort of like rote behaviors. I started getting asked, hey, would you mind taking on this role? Hey, would you mind managing this team? Hey, would you mind doing this? And I'm like, oh, okay. And so it was rewarding to have a new purpose, as it were, But the more I did it and then came on full time and then started leading teams and then started developing training programs, I realized, oh, wait, I'm back in my passion. Like
Mm.
I sort of fell accidentally back into it and found a real drive for bringing performing arts into my hometown, helping, shape the face of what was being brought to the audiences, listening to the audiences, getting in there with them and finding out what moved them
Mm.
and saying, oh, here's other ways that we can help keep that process going forward. And it really was fulfilling.
That's very exciting to hear and also very encouraging. You know, I remember growing up and having friends like you who were really clear early on of what their passion was. And I was not one of those people. And I thought for a long time something was wrong with me because I liked a lot of different things and I could do a lot of different things, but I didn't have that like declaration. This is 100% what I wanted to do. So I love the fact that you talk about pursuing when passion was clear, but also when passion wasn't as clear, but exploring and putting one foot in front of the other and then rediscovering. And that was what happened for me as well. Like I started to do things and tried things out and discovered passion, even though it wasn't upfront and clear for me, at any particular point in time. I'm curious though, as you went on that journey and you came off the road as a performer, what did letting go of that plan require of you emotionally? And
Oof.
and what stayed steady for you even though there was uncertainty?
Ooh, you're asking a creative to talk about how they felt emotionally. Oof. Um, it was disarming.
Mm,
Um, it for the sheer fact that I had known my whole life, like this is what I want to do. And I remember so clearly having the revelation of, wow, I'm starting to get a little bitter about this. I don't ever want to be bitter about it. I'd rather walk away from it than
mm,
ever feel that. And it was that uh, sort of being outside yourself moment of like, oh, okay. Other
mm,
people are doing really adult things. What am I going to do?
mm.
So, um, I think for a lot of people in those situations, whether you know what you want to do and then you lose track of it, or you don't know what you want to do and you're finding it,
Yep.
um, I think there is that moment where you have to go with your gut.
Mm,
And you and I originally met under the concept of authenticity, me talking on authenticity.
right.
And for me, once again, didn't realize this till later in life, but that's always been sort of my go-to. When
Mm,
I don't know what to do, when I was auditioning for different things and had multiple things in front of me, which I was lucky to have, I would go to that gut instinct of what feels like the right step for me rather than, ooh, I would get to work with this person or I would be here. It's like, no, what feels like the right next path. And even as I have transitioned over to the arts admin roles and leadership and now consulting and, fractional executive work, I'm still finding that that's how I make my decision is from my
mm,
authentic place and my passionate place. Like, what is going to move me to the next level? Not what is expected of me. I fall
mhm,
victim to that sometimes, just like everybody else,
right.
but trying to avoid expectation and drive from authenticity.
I love that. So that anchoring back to the center of being authentic to yourself. I'm just curious, maybe if you can share, like, what was that journey like to be able to separate self to understand what was authentic to you versus the noise of other voices, shoulda, coulda, woulda, this is what you're supposed to. How did you, sort of piece that apart?
Well, let me be very clear. I have made some very woulda, shoulda, coulda decisions, and I have made some very like, well, so and so thought this would be a good idea. What was I thinking? Um, I I think I've had the good fortune that I've always been on the creative side, so I've always been a writer.
Mm,
And I can always look back to my writing and kind of go, oh, how did that turn out when I made that decision? And
That's good.
that's getting harder and harder to do because I have so many books, so many journals. And I do have those kind of touch points built within me now that I'm like, okay, really stop and think about this. But even now, many, many years into it, I still have to stop and say, okay, you've been at this crossroads before.
Right.
What's happened? Are you making a decision out of fear? Or are you making a decision out of purpose and passion? Where are you going? If it
Yeah.
is out of fear in any way, take a moment, step back. There's, I'm not going to be able to remember who talks about this, but one of my favorite thoughts is the power of silence, like stopping for a minute and being quiet, whether you're in a conversation with someone else, you're in a high impact decision-making process, or just within your own decision-making process. Stop and be quiet for a second and listen if fear is talking to you or if purpose is talking to you.
That's good. That's really good because I found even for myself there were times where I was surprised. I thought I was making purpose-driven decisions, but to your point where I sat and got quiet or, went back to a journal or video blog that I created for myself, I realized like, oh my gosh, I'm actually operating out of fear, but I thought it was purpose, right? I was even deceiving myself. And so just that journey of pausing, reflecting, but also to what you described, trying things out and exploring and trying things out and realizing, oh, no, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to shift because I now have
Yep.
new information. So I love what you just shared there. That's very impactful and empowering.
But I think people also have to be able, and I'm pointing at you and back at me,
Yep.
that we have to be willing to make those mistakes. I mean, I've made plenty of them. There are things that I've done and I'm like you, I'm making the purpose-driven decision. It's like, I didn't ask the right questions. And okay, that really was it. That was fear. And I was just trying to frame it so that I could go that way. But I think that sort of leads into something else that I really try to focus on, which is concept of failure. I genuinely do not believe in failure. Failure, even in my trainings and my consulting business, I try to talk to people about the fact that failure is not an outcome or a setback or a stop sign. It's information. It's feedback. It's giving you the tools you need to go, hey, that didn't go the way I needed it to. What do I need to do differently?
Oh, I fully agree with you. And in my context, what has always been helpful, even when I tried things that I pivoted or moved away from, was I didn't want to live a life of regret. I didn't want to live a life of second guessing or, oh, I should have, but I didn't try, or I wanted to, but I didn't. It's like, no. And there are things like you just described, I tried because it's something I thought I would love. And I took a stab at it and got into it and got more information, data. It's like, I really like this. I don't love it, but I thought I would love it, and that's okay. And so I'm going to pivot and shift. And like you described about being your finance background, like I have been able to leverage all of those tries that maybe didn't turn into what I wanted to new lessons, new skills, new knowledge, new capability that I've been able to incrementally use in different ways, whether it was professionally or personally, or, the mentoring I do for young people. Like I agree with you. It's not about failure as much as it's about growth and being able to like step out. And for me, the language has been not to live a life of regret.
Fantastic.
So when you anchored on to this sort of sense of authenticity and you try the different things and you explore the shoulda couldas and what others said and you got really clear on your own internal barometer, what stopped working once you were honest with yourself?
That's a great question. What stopped working? I've, I think my first gut on that, Tessa, is when I got into habits, when I got into rote. Hey, expectation. Let's just say I got into expectation that the job is this, and we work these hours, and this is what we're supposed to do, and these are supposed to be the outcomes. And I have not been great at always catching when I fall into that habit pattern. And when I fall into a habit pattern, especially a habit pattern that's based on other people's expectations,
Right.
One, I'm not doing myself any good because I'm probably squelching something that I really want to say, something I think is important, something that I would help growth. But I'm also not doing a service to whoever I'm working with, because when I fall into habit, this may not be the case for everyone. When I fall into habit, I stop contributing at the 100% level. I start censoring what I'm doing based on the people around me. Now, I'm by no means saying that I should just be out there all the time, just saying everything. No one should do that. We all should have a censor button. But it's a matter of being able to take in information, understanding the value of what you can put back out based on the capacity of those around you and the capacity of the organization or the environment. But yeah, when I fall into habit of expectation or habit of, all right, this is what I do.
Right.
I feel it in my body. I feel it in my productivity. My creativity suffers. Like, I'll notice that I stop journaling. Like, all those pieces start slowly falling off. It's like, okay, nope, we got to get back to the, why am I doing this? Is it serving me? Is it serving them?
I really appreciate that. That's a good, like, things to indicators to look for and things to think about, where your body, your ecosystem starts to reflect feedback back to you. And it sounds like as you saw that shift from external circumstances, habits, timelines, routines really turned into internal ownership. And so as you shifted to that, your own agency and that internal ownership, what changed, or what allowed you to accept that, like, self-responsibility, that self-accountability?
As far as getting back to my purpose and my,
And saying, I'm not gonna be beholden to these habits anymore. I'm not going to let the routine and the roteness define me. I'm not going to let my voice be diminished. I'm not going to, keep the dim on my creativity. Like, it's one thing to intellectually, have a head knowledge around that. What was the unlock that moved in for you, that helped you move from that as a concept to the behavior shift or the heart shift that may have followed?
I would say it's two things. One is external and one is internal. When I realized that my quantity of joy changed, just day to day, ability to enjoy things, doing things I love to do, but not doing them anymore, like things that really filled me up. When I started to see them diminish in my life, hanging out with my friends, going to new shows, just doing things in general. I love food, love it way too much for my own good. When I stopped going out and trying new restaurants, like that for me was a thing. But the other piece is the people that I was leading at the time, whether it was in a cast and I was a company manager, or in a cast and my peers, in a leadership position, truly in a leadership position at an organization. When I saw the people around me starting to not ask me questions, when I saw them starting to diminish their light, was like, oh, wait, part of my role in life is a catalyst. Like, if other people are holding back, it might have something to do with how I'm holding back.
Right. I love that. You talked at the start of the conversation, you talked about, like, the journey of passion and how, there are seasons where it can be complex or uncertain or slow. And you talked a little bit about, wanting and needing to get off the road. I'm curious, in this new season and what have learned or gleaned from the rearview mirror, how how do you sustain passion without burning out?
Well, I feel like if I had the answer to that question, I would be like on a yacht somewhere in the Riviera. How do you sustain purpose or passion? Some of it. So I'm going to answer that question by giving you a little history about me too. That one of the things within the last few years that I've had to really sort of own or dissect a bit more is that I do have, as we talked about at the beginning, this sort of, I'm going to go do this thing. Let's see what happens. But I've always been that way. And it's sort of this childlike, I don't know, let's see. But I do have a background of, okay, we have responsibilities. We have things we have to do. We have bills we have to pay.
Right.
But for me, the making sure that you sustain passion is, am I looking at things from a perspective of, wonder what would happen? Like, I have 4 grandchildren now, and we get these creative kits for 2 of them. They're old enough now that we get these monthly creative kits where they build something or they put something together. And some of it is experimental. Some of it's, put slot A and hole B kind of thing.
Right.
But doing those with them and kind of that kid aspect of what's going to happen. If you're doing something for me, if I'm doing something every day and I don't have that moment of, I wonder, it's probably not feeding my passion. That doesn't mean I have to have that 24/7, but there should be sort of an overarching, I wonder what's going to happen for me.
I like that. It's almost like having, if I think about it in the sort of financial terms, it's having a diversified passion portfolio. Right? So,
you make it sound so much more adult.
I like that though. And it's, different degrees of concentration. I think that's pretty cool. So when so with that mindset, right? Like different season of life, what does that diversified portfolio of passion look like? What does endurance look like for you today? Not as like the grit and grind that often comes with, earlier years or younger years, but in a way that allows you to still like have that alignment over time. Because it sounds like you've been on this really rich journey of passion, lean in, discovery of purpose, passion burned out, step back, get realistic, do what you need to do, rediscover passion. So as you look at like the journey of endurance today, where, hey, try to balance that you're not burned out by passion, but how to stay aligned to purpose as well. What helps you stay connected in that regard?
I feel like I should start by saying I love roller coasters.
Oh, I love that. And that's what I'll say, because it is a roller coaster ride. Yes.
But I'm going to use your very adult concept of financial diversification. Yeah. I have personal diversification. And so endurance for me, when I talked earlier about, I start noticing when passion is moving away and it's just a job or it's just a task because I've stopped doing the things that I love. Early on, yes, I've always known I wanted to be a performer, but I also have a lot of things I really love. I love baking and experimenting with recipes. I love crafts. I love puzzles. I love writing. Animals are kind of a side hobby for me. Like, these are things that I love to do. So my endurance has been discovered through, if this task is exhausting me, I step away and do something that really lights me up. And I come back to this with a new energy. And so endurance long-term is about owning that there are going to be those ebbs and those flows and passion and burnout. And what am I going to do? And because I'm in a creative world, it tends to be passion, burnout. So, really highs, really lows. But if I can find the middle and find those things that for me are therapy, that refills my endurance calculation so that I can keep going again on something else. And to dive back in, because sometimes, as I'm sure you will know, if you're working out of practicality, it can really drain your battery.
Yeah.
And it can drain your battery in a way that's not just energy, it's soul. And so getting back to it thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to put more into that. I cannot possibly put more into that.
Right.
Stepping away with something that you love, that energizes you, it may give you the energy to go back and go, no, this really is not for me. Or it may
Right.
give you the energy to go back and go, it is for me. I just got stuck and I need to look at the bigger picture rather than this one setback and keep going.
I love that. You know, sitting where you're sitting in the journey, beautiful stories that you've shared and the journey you've been on around purpose and passion and endurance. I'm just curious, like, for people who are newer to this journey or stuck in, one section or another, what advice would you give that's you would say is important for others to discover for themselves as they navigate the seasons between these sort of, aspects of life to drive that congruent and satisfaction and things like that?
A friend of mine who's a creative has a great, her podcast is actually named this, but she has a manifesto, which I love. And her first line on her manifesto is, there is no time to be timid. And so that reverberates from me a great deal, because there are plenty of people in the world who are going to try to put your flame out. And so it is so important that every day you start with how you lift your flame yourself. Like, it has to come from internal. And going out into the world with, sometimes with a mask on, sometimes legitimately, but going out into the world and going, nope. If no one else says I can for me, I'm going to say I can for me. How can I do it? And there are going to be good days. There are going to be bad days. But the idea of always starting here internally with, okay, I am really my only judge and jury.
Love that.
So if I'm my judge and jury, what does it take to be successful today? And sometimes being successful today is I put pants on. I got up, I actually talked to another human, success. And some days it's conquering the world.
Right.
But you can't let other people set those goals and priorities for you.
Right. I love that. And I think that's so well said, and a great reminder that, at the end of the day, we have to not, if we truly want the most out of life, it can't be an autopilot. Like, we do have to take the reins and the control. But I also, love the reminder of, and every day looks different. Like, what drives success? What makes today successful? Or what makes the next hour successful, or the next minute successful, right? Can look so different minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. And I had a moment like that for myself this morning, where it's just like, I was like, go, 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 go. And I had all these things I needed to do. And at the same time, we've had some loss in the family. So there's also, I'm in a sort of tender place. And I remember, like, being really tired, more tired than I expected to be. I was like, all right, I got to go at it. And I was like, actually, I just need to sit here. I actually just need
Good
to
for
sit
you.
here and just think about that family, think about what I can do to help, and just lean into the emotion. Like, it's heavy, it's uncomfortable. And yeah, I'm just going to give myself time to just sit and feel it. And I felt so much better. Didn't change the dynamic, didn't bring someone back to life, but I listened to my own internal compass, and I didn't just respond to the external world, but really honored what I needed. And so I love that reminder. And, by the afternoon, I was back on calls with clients and go, go, go. Right?
But
I was in the
again, that's
the heart space
the
for
power
it.
in the pause.
Yes.
The power in the pause can be the power in a conversational pause, but it can also be in the pause for yourself. Like, go back inside and go, the world will wait a minute.
Yes.
What do I need?
100%. Absolutely. Well, Christi, before we close, I really want to make space for you to be able to share where people can learn more about your work and the projects you're stewarding right now, and how they can stay connected with you, because I know this conversation is going to resonate with many.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, my website is presently under construction. But so my consulting company is Airly Strategies. And I always like to tell people the story behind that. I'm German, Scotch, Irish. My Scottish heritage comes from the Airlie clan, which is a very small clan, one of the only ones during the clan wars to keep their land and their castle. So it feels pretty, it's an honor for me to be able to use that name, and it's a little different. But Airlie, AIRLIE Strategies. And it's something as simple as Christi at airliestrategies.com is how you get in touch with me. And what I like to say is my goal is to bring creative thinking and financial acumen into any world. So it doesn't matter what your business is. Everybody needs a little creative thought. Everybody needs a little financial acumen that says, here's how you can be successful all the way around. But for me, you have to be prepared for me to tell you it starts here. It starts with passion. It starts with purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? Because that's the special skill that you bring every day to the world you walk into.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Christi, so much for spending time with us
Tessa.
today. And I just want to share with our listening audience, if this conversation resonated, I invite you to follow the podcast and join us for the next episode where we'll continue exploring what it looks like to lead yourself well and build a life that actually holds up over time.